of the Finance Committee. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Robin, could you put up the agenda, please?
We have approval of the agenda next.
I move that we approve the agenda November 18th.
Earl, do you have a second?
Second.
The motion's been made to approve the agenda for today's meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Are there any public comments?
No, sir.
Okay, there are no public comments. We also don't have any meeting minutes. Is that correct?
Correct.
We have no meeting minutes to approve. So we'll go right into OE 6.6 FY 2022 first quarter financial statement. And that be Ms. Crosby.
Good evening, everyone. So this evening, we are here to report the first quarter financial statements for fiscal year 2022. So this is for the period from July 1 to September 30th. And everything appears to be in very good order. We do have some increases in our tax revenue. So that's one of the primary areas that I pay attention to. So if you'll, Robin, if you would go to page 5 of this report, I'm just going to point out a few highlighted areas and kind of demonstrate a few areas compared to the prior year. So actually there's another page 5, the page numbers that are at the bottom of the document. Yep, so that one's number 2. So on page 5. Yep, go, if you could go back one. Oh, okay. Yes, my numbering must be quite a little bit different. Go to page 4, please. Sorry. Okay, so and if we could scroll just a hair, there we go. Local property taxes in the general fund are on the top line here. So in the period in the current year, we've collected 4 million. This is 3 columns from the right. So $4,666,370 as compared to the prior year of $3,952,081. So we are up about $800,000 there in tax revenue. Now, keep in mind, this represents about 1 month of tax revenue because July and August, there is an accounting rule that requires us to accrue back to the prior year the first 60 days of delinquent taxes. So primarily, that's all we are receiving during those periods, not much current tax revenue. And so this generally represents about 1 month of tax revenue. We make that up in June, where we're recording about 3 months of current tax revenue and a couple of months of delinquent. So that's an accounting policy guideline that we have to follow. So we've collected about 2.9%, so that's up just a hair from the prior year. And as you can see there, every category in revenue is up from the prior year, so that's very good. Our other local sources, and I have made sure that we talked about last time any categories that indicated an other. We were listing it with a superscript, and then down below there's some additional details of what the categories are of revenue in that category. So this other local sources include penalties and interest, interest on investments, tuition payments, and insurance proceeds. So those would be, and there's a further breakdown on the next page of that, but we'll wait to see that. Additionally, state sources are a multitude of sources. And again, there's a further breakdown on the next page, but we're up $500,000 from the prior year. So that's encouraging. As additionally, our federal sources are our E-rate funds. And so we had some E-rate applications paid in that first quarter of the year on our category services. Those are the telecommunication services that we pay for in the general fund, and therefore we reimburse the general fund for those services. On the expenditure side, this is just a high-level summary, but you'll see here that instructional spending is up about $1.2 million there. We're at 23.7 million in the current as of September 30. Support services are up as well, and other spending, which are our dues and fees as well. So overall, we're up about 3.6 million in expenditures. So if you go to the next page.
Before you go, please
Yes, sir.
go back.
Yes, sir.
Please go back. Before you go on, are there any questions from the committee members or other board members on the overall numbers?
No, I don't have any questions.
No, sir.
Okay, I don't see any hands up. Okay, one thing I would like to mention to you is I think one of the reasons we can look for the other local property taxes being up, according to the treasurer, Maria Walls, is the increased value of automobiles. Automobile sales have been pretty good. And so they're paying taxes based on new cars. And new cars are much more expensive. So that's when I asked her, why is that happening? That's the answer she gave me. So that's of somewhat interest. The other issue, Tanya, is please, have you gotten confirmation about the millage rate that went out on the tax bills?
I did contact the treasurer, the county auditor's office and requested confirmation of our operating and debt service millage. I did not receive a response. That was about 3 weeks ago. However, Reggie Murphy in our office went on the county website and found a report of taxes levied for tax year 2021 that was recently posted. And it does indicate that school operations tax will be 121.6 and school debt service millage will be 36.3, which are the exact amounts in the ordinance. So we have confirmed from information from their website. And I can certainly share that document with each of you via email and or point you to the link to the website or a link to their website as well that helps us to confirm that. And this was dated September 27th, 2021.
And for the committee members, that's exactly what we recommended to the county council, and the county council accepted that, and obviously the auditor passed that along, which has been an issue in the past, but appears to be not an issue this year. Okay, can we go ahead then, please?
Sure. This page just provides a further detail of the previous page. The other was mostly a summary. This one's much smaller font because there's a lot more detail there. I would just point, and this is just revenues, and so it does break down your other categories a little further as well. Just point out probably some of the state revenue. I want to point out the sales tax reimbursement on owner occupied, about right where that cursor is. It's is one of the largest pots of state money we receive, state revenue we receive each year. 46, it's currently budgeted at $47 million. That revenue source we receive our first payment in October. So we received 10 payments beginning in October. So that's why there's 0 there. Again, this is, there was an additional penny of sales tax in lieu of the removal of taxes on owner occupied residences. So we receive, in lieu of the taxes that go to the state, this is the pot of money that comes back to us. And there is a delay in payment, and that is typical and has been throughout since 2006 when it was first enacted. So there's some other sources that are a little more consistent throughout the year, and that's EFA, the Education Finance Act. We've received $4 million so far this year. All in all, we've received 14.8 million so far, as opposed to 13.3 last year. So we are up overall, as we mentioned, in revenues.
Any question on revenues?
No.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, go ahead, Tanya.
All right. These provide the details of every program. These are expenditures in every program of the district. I hadn't planned to talk about each one of these, but in general, these, you can tell when compared to the prior year that we were appropriately spending in these categories, especially considering cost of living and or the step increases that were incurred, particularly for our teachers, and other the $1,000 to the base teacher salary. So those expenditures are beginning to show here in these reports. And this represents, well, for a new teacher starts in August. So we would only see for new teachers a portion of those expenditures in this quarter. But for continuing teachers that are veteran teachers that remain with us, this is a full, actually it's all teachers. The expenditures represent beginning in August. All others are accrued back to the prior fiscal year in June. So this does represent salary expenditures from mid-August until the end of September. So it's only about 6 weeks of time. So that's a little different than what, inconsistent. That is consistent with prior years, but all other quarters represent a full 3 months.
Okay, I don't know if the other committee members have had a chance to go through all the different charts, but one of the things you look for is the percentages. Anything over 25%, you say, okay, why anything that you spent more than 25%? And it's very common for purchase services and supplies in an academic environment to be heavy in the first quarter when school starts. But I didn't see any that were out of tolerance. I only saw one that I had a question on, and I'll just start it off with the first question, and that's on page 9. And page 9, and it's a small amount, but it's employee benefits for homebound 44%, 44.3%. And it's a small amount, but can you explain why that's higher for an employee benefit for homebound?
I don't know right offhand. I can check into that and email the committee back for that particular line item. That would normally be a part-time salaries and benefits, a part-time salary. So it's a percentage of the.
Yeah, I would think the salaries and the benefits would be about the same, but benefits higher. So that just kind of brought up a question.
Right. Yeah, I can check into that and return a message to the committee.
Has anybody else taken a look through this and have anything that popped out at them?
Well, I was
Hands up.
I was going to ask you if there were a large amount of homebound students that we were serving at this time. Would that be the reasoning of it?
There are a lot of homebound students that we're serving. I wouldn't hate to venture to guess what that might be, so I'd rather look into it and then get back to the group with a definitive answer. I don't want to guess and be wrong.
Yeah, it's just the 18% for salaries is not unsurprising, but the 44% since employee benefits and salaries are tied together, it just doesn't seem to make sense that there's that much gap between the salary and the benefits.
Right.
Any other items that anybody has seen in the fourth quarter?
I do have another question. In terms of this, right? In terms of this, do we have? Well, I'll save that question. I'll save that. That's not germane to the subject. No problem.
Are you going? If there's no other questions about the salary, can we move to the 8%? Actually, stop at page 24. Okay, well, yeah, there it is. That's it. This, of course, is our student activity fund balances. One of the things that you'll notice is that we were able to make Battery Creek High School a little more solvent by the transfer of some funds to them. Long story, if you want to hear it again, I can tell you about it. But we have pretty healthy balances. But if you go down to the next, scroll down just a little bit, Robin, please. And again, I need to ask, because I can't remember why, but the district office balance of $463,000. Could you explain that? What that?
Sure. Those are accumulation of technology usage fees. So in the column marked FY22 July through September transfers, so we are collecting revenues for technology usage fees, the $20 per student for the take-home use of the device, the student laptops, and those funds are transferred up into the district office, and so they are for the purpose of computer repairs and replacements. So the bulk of those dollars are for the technology in the technology usage fee category. And this is the one that has a restriction policy that requires it to not be larger than the prior year's, that the carryover balance not be larger than the prior year's revenue. So we are, I'd have to look back at the prior year, but if we're not within that range, we're very close. We generally collect about $400,000 annually.
There's been questions about this in the past. Are there any questions from the committee members or other board members attending?
Me? Mr. Chair, I just had one question or request. Am I recognized?
Yes, please.
Thank you. On the student activities fund balance, the bar graph that we have, I was just going to ask formatting wise. When I'm reading it, I noticed that, of course, the high schools are at the top, the middle schools, elementary schools, right choices is at the bottom, along with the district office. One of the things that I think would be beneficial as we're looking at different types of programs, and we always have the conversation about equity across the district. I think it would be beneficial if we put these based on grade level in order of balance, so that we can then determine based on, you know, where those funds are coming from, whether it be from sports activities or elsewhere, what the per pupil expenditures might look like at those schools, and just have a better grasp on things. So that's just a little request to try to organize it in a format that's a little bit more clear to order of funds.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent suggestion. Any other comments? Okay, let's go on to the next slide, please. Go ahead, Tanya.
Okay. This is the 8% capital projects for the district by year. And of course, our oldest years that are open are 2018-19. I do want to point out those are expended at a 95.5% rate for 2018 and 99.2% for 2019. We are in the process of finalizing the very last few expenditures in those categories, and I do anticipate in the spring, before our 8% project conversation, that I'll be bringing these two categories of funding to you, to the board, for along with any premiums or interest that may exist in these two accounts, for the board to be able to decide about the rollover of unused funds. So those two will be closed out by the spring. We're very, very close to the final closeout. There will be some, I think the project contingency is around $800,000 and $840,000 in the capital projects in the 2018, and about 200, a little under 300,000 for the 2019. So we have a most of what you see here is contingency, project contingency that will roll forward. So we'll make sure that any premiums on the original bonds will be brought forward as well, and then we'll be able to make some decisions with those dollars on future projects or bonds. So the remainder of the projects have remaining balances, ranging from 2 million to 5, and then of course the ones we just begun and were approved this year are 18 million. So it looks as if we have a total problem there of 12 million, and obviously that doesn't total correctly. So we'll go back between the 6 projects there and make the correction on the total, and we'll get that an updated copy back to the board.
Any comments, questions
I
from
wanted
board?
to catch that before Rachel did.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. This is a continuing emphasis, piece of emphasis by this committee, I believe, is we want to close out these projects and transfer forward the premiums and to reduce the amount that we have to borrow yearly in our 8% borrowing process.
Mhm.
Okay, if there's no other questions, can we go forward? These are all each's specific things. If there's anything that pops out from anybody, could you?
This,
Rachel's hands up.
Rachel?
huh? Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have is if perhaps on the areas where it says technology projects and it has the refresh, it just, all it says under the data point is technology refresh. I think it would be beneficial to have a little bit more information. As I'm looking at these over time, what I'm thinking about is, what site does that apply to? What grade levels? Because we've done multiple different technology refreshes, and I think it needs to be very clear in our records, which one that was, and identify these as more as possible with detail. Thank you.
Yes.
We
We can
talked-
easily do that, yeah.
And we
We'll
talked
make sure.
technology committee meeting just a few moments ago. And we didn't mention that specifically about the dollar amounts, but that I believe, Mr. Stribinger, is something that should be considered as well when we look at that further.
Okay.
Are those things itemized in the 8% project plan? I think they are.
Yes, yes, the total budget should match. These are broken down just by school level and school location code.
Right. Yeah, I think that detail is in the 8% project plan. So I think it's just a matter of, I guess, transferring as much as you can of that verbiage up to this.
We'll certainly do that. These appear to be elementary and middle school devices, a combination of both. So, but we'll definitely do that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. I'll look at if I had any. Did anybody else have any other issues with this a whole lot of data to look at? Mr. Smith, did you have something that you wanted to bring up? Mr. Smith? Is he still on, Robin?
He's muted and he's not showing his face. I can't tell.
Okay. All right. We also have data, financial data on the referendum. You'll scroll down to the pages on that. Page, there you go. Now, these are looked over by the clock. They just did their quarterly review, and the clock found nothing surprising or concerning by this. Is a whole lot of data on the. I don't know if any of the board members have any specific questions that they have. I can say, just to wrap it up, we had a program reset, and the program reset was to take a look at all the money that has been expended thus far, encumbered thus far, closed out thus far, contingency plans or contingency funds from completed projects forwarded. The bottom line of all of that review is that the committee, both the referendum, the master contractor, CBR Erie, and the clock believe that we will have sufficient funds to build everything that we said we were going to build in the referendum, and maybe have the best case is have $1 more than what we asked for. Now obviously, that's not going to happen. But they think it will be plus some number of dollars, not in the whole some number of dollars, based based on their reset. Are there any questions? Yes. I heard somebody.
Well,
Yeah.
I can speak to that, and I'll just elaborate on that because I'm really sensitive to cost overruns on projects.
Right.
But this has to be viewed in light of the fact that it was impossible to anticipate this that was coming because of COVID on materials. So bringing these projects in at or slightly under budget is really a Herculean task. And people forget, when you just look at the numbers, you don't remember that material prices spiked unbelievably, and no one could have anticipated that. So they really need to get a gold medal for everybody working together to keep the thing under. And you know, those reviews that they do to keep, to make adjustments, all those things are not flashy. They're not going to get in the newspaper, but that fundamental stuff is what pays off for the taxpayer.
That's true.
So hopefully we can emphasize that when all this is closed out, that don't forget that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you. And one of the very important parts to make sure that we acknowledge is that when these figures were developed before COVID, we put in contingency funds. And it would be easy for critics to say, well, you put in too much. If you're going to come in under budget with the challenges that you had, you obviously gold-plated the referendum. And that's not true. We did a good job of anticipating in the contingency, but what we had to do for every project, once we determined that we were going to have cost overruns in specific items like steel, wiring, construction materials in general, we did what's called value engineering. And what valued engineering is you sit down with the user, for example, the principal of Robert Small's International Academy, and said, okay, we have X number of dollars. We can't build exactly what we anticipated building. What can you cut out or reconfigure to save us some money? And it is little things like how many cables you run into a camera. It's little things like, well, here's an office in the gymnasium that we really don't need. So let's cut out that wall. And that's what's been going on in every one of the projects to cope with these increased costs. So obviously there's going to be a coach, for example, not happy that he doesn't have a dedicated office. And maybe someday we'll build him something. But that's how we dealt with this issue. So we did not gold plate this. We are working hard to bring it in under budget. And we've made some sacrifices. So that's an important message to give out to the public when they take a look at accomplishing this very, very complex referendum and coming in slightly under budget. Any other comments?
No, sir.
Sure.
Okay. If there are no other comments on this report, do I hear a motion to recommend to the full board to accept the fourth quarter financial statement?
Make a motion that we recommend to the board to accept the fourth quarter report.
First quarter.
Second.
Huh?
We have a second?
Yes.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that we recommend to the full board that they approve the FY 2022 first quarter financial statement.
First quarter, I'm sorry.
You're right.
Hmm.
First quarter, I'm sorry.
First quarter.
First quarter, you're right.
Yeah.
First quarter financial statement. Any discussion?
Yes, sir. I just want to make sure that it's noted about the changes that Tanya suggested with regard to the 8%.
8% projects.
Right.
Just want to make sure that's noted. Thank you.
Can we make those changes by the time we bring it to the board, Tanya?
Yes, sir, I will adjust those before we bring them to the full board.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Can we go back to the agenda, please? The next item on this is a slow time for the Finance Committee. We'll be ginning up for the budget process starting in when, Tanya?
As part of December.
February, well, we'll be beginning
February.
our part with enrollment internally in December. And
Yeah.
then you'll begin to see information trickling in probably early February.
Right. So that leads me to future topics. I think a good future topic would be the 90-day numbers,
Mhm.
the enrollment numbers.
That's fine.
That's going to be very important.
Mr. Guyer, I wanted to see if we could do a very brief update on the annual audit as well.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. That's next on the agenda. So I'm sorry. Can we have an update on the financial audit, Tanya?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All in all, we are not quite finished. Our deadline on the external audit is December 1st. The State Department imposes that deadline. We have a few final, we have a draft of the financial report, but have some final reviews to make and some final narratives to finish writing and reviewing. The good news, very, very good news, is that we have a clean audit, no findings. We have an unmodified opinion, and you're going to hear that again next board meeting, the December board meeting. So due to the volume of reports that the auditors are getting out, they're going to be working very diligently through December 1st. So about 2 weeks following that, we are going to have Hope Pendergrass, the managing partner with Malden and Jenkins, come forward to give a presentation to the board and at that meeting. And so she will provide more details than I will this evening. But there were no significant deficiencies, no forms of non-compliance, no instances of non-compliance or any material weaknesses. So that is a very, very good audit, and we like to see that. Just a few points. We do have a net increase in fund balance of $5.8 million, resulting in a fund balance of $50.6 million, or 18% of the budgeted expenditures. So we are slightly above the board's policy of 15 to 17%, but we are in a very healthy financial position for future bond ratings. So just wanted to make a few of those notes. One particular thing you're going to see and Hope will talk about is there was a new GASB pronouncement. GASB is the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that we're dictated by, and they have shifted our student activity funds out of a fiduciary fund, meaning we just hold it on someone else's behalf, and they've shifted it under a special revenue fund umbrella because the district exerts some level of control over those funds. So they're now having it treated as a special revenue fund. So for purposes of the audit, it's going to be a little rearranged, and you may see it in a different section than you normally would. But for purposes of the quarterly financial report, we're going to leave it where it's at. So you'll see it exactly like it is now. But things are changing a little in that world. But for the most part, it's just a presentation on the end of year financial statements that will be affected by that. And hope we'll talk about that some more in December. So, and all school districts in the nation would be have to comply with this requirement. So it's not unique to our school district. Significant, I was going to say significant increases in spending in federal funds in both the end of year and the first quarter. So of course, for the COVID related funds, and those will also be discussed in our notes to financials and so on. But this is a monumental effort by our team, and having that audit and our ACE audit going on simultaneously. So we'll be glad when December 1st comes and we're able to breathe a little bit. One last piece of information we are waiting on, however, is our Riverview Charter School audit. And so that one piece is a component unit in our audit. And I'll be in conversations on Monday with Mr. Bechtold at Riverview to make sure we will get that information in order for us to meet our December 1 deadline. So we're a little later than normal this year, but we anticipate meeting our deadline. But I'm going to make sure we have assurance of that when I meet with him on Monday. So with that, I'll take any questions you may have on that topic or any others.
Smith's hands up.
Any questions?
No, I don't have any.
Or it was.
Dr. Wisniewski?
No, sir.
You know, I am somewhat concerned about the Riverview. That they get their information into us. I don't want our audit held up because of their issues, whatever they are. If somebody needs to get involved, please let me know.
Yes,
I'd be happy to talk to them.
okay. I do have a meeting scheduled on Monday, but I do have his cell phone, and I'm going to give him a little bit of a heads up before our meeting so that he can check on that and have a final update for us when we talk the next time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And we're going to have an ACE meeting, and we're going to talk about their audit and what is the relationship between their audit and ours.
The same people are working on the gathering information. We have two sets of auditors. We have Malden and Jenkins. They have Elliott Davis. And so we have people gathering information from for both entities and updating it in an audit portal that's called SureLink. And SureLink has two segments. One is for Beaufort County School District audit request, documentation requests, and another segment for ACE. And so we review the items in there. We have two staff members in particular that work on audits and are kind of the project managers of those and kind of coordinate and facilitate everyone else in the department to get documents uploaded into that portal, into the auditors. We were actually given a final report of theirs today because it's a smaller entity. So we're in better shape there. We're done, but it is so we can focus more on just Beaufort at this point.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Back to future topics. Any future topics from committee members or board members?
I think Rachel got a question.
Dr. Wisniewski?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There was some discussion at our last board meeting in regard to Amazon purchases, and I know I listed quite a few different concerns, but I'd like to bring that to the committee level for further investigation and digging into.
That sounds great.
Okay. And Tanya, did you have anything that you want to bring?
No, sir, I do not at this time.
Okay.
I have two pending items. I guess it all depends on when we're meeting next. Are we having a December meeting, or are we because we're a little week behind our normal schedule. So if we're in January, I may have something for you, but I'm not sure I'm going to have anything for the December.
For 9th would be our next meeting,
What's that?
December 9th.
The 9th of
Mhm.
For
December?
December?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh. At what time?
Should we do it at the same time?
Yeah, that's fine.
Don't we meet on the second Thursday of each month?
Okay. Dr. Wisniewski, will that work for you?
I believe so.
Yeah, it is the second Thursday.
All right, so December 9th at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
usually 5, but do you want it
At 5?
at 4?
Well,
5
that's-
Well, 5
5?
o'clock.
Yeah, it's usually at 5.
okay,
Okay.
fine.
Let's say 5.
Okay.
Mr. Smith had his hand up for future topics.
Right. Okay. If there are no other issues, do I motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.